Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Laura Logerfo, Assistant Director for Reporting and Analysis at the National Assessment Governing Board. The Governing Board works on the nation's report card, NAEP to Friends, or the National Assessment of Educational Progress to our more formal friends. Today we'll be talking about the results of the 2019 Nation's Report Cards in Reading and Mathematics for grade 12 students. They'll discuss what the nation can do to help young adults succeed. An important note, all attendees have their microphones muted. It's not personal. So for the Q&A, please type your questions into the box labeled Q&A at the right-hand side of your screen. If you miss a moment, this event is being recorded and will be shared on the Governing Board website soon. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Governor Haley Barbour, Chair of the National Assessment Governing Board.
Thank you, Laura, and again, welcome to all of you. We appreciate your time today as we delve into what NAEP tells us about the performance of grade 12 students. The nation's report card provides vital information we all can use to improve education in our country. The information it provides is also sobering. No matter the path students take after high school, a strong foundation in math and reading is essential. These results demonstrate that far too many of our nation's high school seniors do not have sufficient math and reading skills for post-secondary endeavors. It's clear we're not doing our job as stewards of our children's future. You'll see why when Peggy reveals the NAEP results, but first, let's set the context. I'd like to introduce Lynn Woodworth, the Commissioner of the National Center for Education Statistics, or NCES. He'll share some data his agency gathers about grade 12, such as high school graduation rates and course taking. Then we'll hear the 2019 NAEP results for grade 12 from Peggy Carr, the Associate Commissioner for Assessment at NCES. Lynn, tell us what's happening with high school seniors.
Thank you, Governor Barbour. Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Woodworth, the Commissioner at the National Center for Education Statistics, known as NCES. It's a privilege to be with you here today, at least virtually, to participate in the release event for results for the latest NAEP grade 12 mathematics and reading assessments. As the NCES Commissioner, I am opening the official statistics release portion of today's event, which includes my remarks, the presentation of the NAEP grade 12 results by Dr. Peggy Carr, and a Q&A session about the grade 12 results. We will then turn the event back over to the National Assessment Governing Board for the second half of today's event. NCES is proud to be the federal statistical agency responsible for the NAEP program and to partner with NAGB in this important event. NAEP is a key part of NCES's congressional mandate to report on the condition and progress of education in the states and territories, a mandate that goes back to 1867 when the first federal Department of Education, which eventually became NCES, was chartered by Congress. Before turning to Dr. Carr, I want to make sure you're aware of other data sources that NCES has that also address grade 12. We have a lot of information about the education system at this key transition point from the end of compulsory schooling to higher education or the workforce. As you can see from the table, NCES has many resources that can help enrich our understanding of the NAEP grade 12 results, such as our data on high school graduation rates, high school dropout rates, and high school enrollment rates. We also have longitudinal studies that follow students through secondary and post-secondary education. This table highlights some of the NCES data collections, a sample finding of these collections, and recent release dates and upcoming dates for data releases. Let me now turn to some of these data that will help put the NAEP grade 12 results in context. Every year, usually in May, NCES puts out the latest graduation and dropout report data. This chart shows the graduation rates over time. Graduation rates, also known as ACGR, have increased overall by 6 percentage points from 2011 to 2018 and have grown at a higher rate for some groups, most notably Black students, limited English proficiency students, Hispanic students, and economically disadvantaged students. Hand in hand with increasing graduation rates, high school dropout rates have decreased. This chart shows the dropout rates going back to 1977. The dropout rate overall has decreased by 8 percentage points from 1977 to 2017, with larger decreases for Hispanic students and Black students. Dropout rates are also available for other student groups starting in 2006. These are just a couple of examples of NCES data that, together with NAEP data, can provide a richer understanding of educational progress at the end of high school. I want to also say a word about the non-achievement data from the latest grade 12 NAEP results. This slide is based on the students' responses to survey questions about the mathematics course taking. Here we see an increase in the percentage of students who reported taking more advanced math courses in 2019 than 12th graders in 2005. We will see in Dr. Carr's presentation that this increase in advanced course taking does not necessarily align with increases in the overall mathematics scores. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Carr, who will be presenting the full results from the grade 12 assessments. The statistical portion of this event will conclude at the end of the Q&A session. Dr. Carr is the Associate Commissioner for Assessment at NCES, a role she has held for nearly 2 decades. She is responsible for NCES's portfolio of national and international large-scale assessments, including NAEP, the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, International Mathematics and Science Study, known as TIMSS, Progress in International Reading and Literacy Study, PIRLS, and the Program for International Assessment of Adult Competencies, also known as PIAC. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peggy Carr.
Thank you, Commissioner. I am pleased to provide today's briefing on the NAEP grade 12 mathematics and reading results. Let's begin with an overview of the data collection which took place between late January and early March 2019. We sampled over 50,000 students from almost 1,800 schools. Also, for the first time, grade 12 data were collected both by paper and pencil on a tablet. The results reflect performance using both modes. I will start with the mathematics assessment, which has a trend line that dates back to 2005. The previous assessment was in 2015. Now we'll compare the 2019 results to both data points. You can see from this slide that there are 4 content areas which make up the assessment: numbers, properties, and operations, measurement and geometry, data analysis, statistics, and probability, and of course, algebra. NAEP results are reported in 2 ways: a scale score between 0 and 300, and the NAEP achievement level set by the National Assessment Governing Board. They include NAEP Basic, NAEP Proficient, and NAEP Advanced. Now let's turn to the results. Here you see the trend chart showing average scores for grade 12 mathematics, and asterisks indicate a statistically significant difference from 2019. As you can see, there is not a statistically significant difference compared to the previous assessment in 2015 or the first administration in 2005. However, performance is lower compared to 2009 and 2013. To better understand student academic performance across the distribution, we examine average scores for each of the 5 achievement percentiles. The 10th and the 25th at the bottom you see here on the slide represent our lower performing students, and the 75th and 90th percentiles at the top represent our higher performing students. And again, an asterisk indicates a statistically significant difference from 2019. Compared to the first assessment year, you see students at the 90th percentile is the only group to show improvement, with all other percentiles showing no change. However, compared to the previous assessment, students at the 10th and 25th percentile showed a decline in performance. Now we'll examine race, ethnicity, and gender findings. On this slide, gray diamonds indicate no change, while blue, light blue circles with the down arrows indicate a decline in scores. Dark blue circles with up arrows indicate an improvement in scores. As the column under 2015 indicates, we see no significant changes by race, ethnicity, or gender. From 2005, the column to the far right, the average score has remained flat, as indicated by the diamond in the very top row, while white, Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander, and students of 2 or more races showed improvement. Both males and females showed no change from both the 2005 and the 2015, but 3-point declines compared to 10 years ago, mirroring the overall score decline compared to 2009.
Hi, this is Grady. Maybe I should take over until the connection gets fixed. So as Peggy was mentioning, NAEP has 3 achievement levels: NAEP Basic, NAEP Proficient, and NAEP Advanced. Students who reach proficient on grade 12 mathematics, they can recognize when particular concepts, procedures, and strategies are appropriate, and select, integrate, and apply them to solve problems. They can also test and validate geometric and algebraic conjectures using a variety of methods, including deductive reasoning and counterexamples. At the far right of the slide, you see 24% of students in 2019 are at or above NAEP Proficient, which is not different from 2015 or 2005. 40% of students are below NAEP Basic, which is a larger percentage than in 2015, but not different from 2005. The 35% at Basic is lower compared to both 2015 and 2005. And consistent with our finding of the 90th percentile increasing over the long term, the percentage of students at Advanced is statistically higher than 2005. Now let's move into our reading highlights. The reading trend line began in 1992, the previous assessment being 2015, and I'll compare the 2019 results to both data points. NAEP reading assesses reading comprehension using 2 main types of text: literary and informational. The framework also has 3 cognitive targets. They include locate and recall, integrate and interpret, and critique and evaluate. And at the bottom, you see the NAEP reading average scores are reported on a scale between 0 and 500. And of course, we have the already mentioned NAEP achievement levels. Now for the results. The average score of 285 in 2019 is 2 points lower than the average score in 2015, the previous assessment, and 7 points lower than the average score in the first assessment year. You also see statistically significant difference from several previous years indicated by the asterisks. Turning our attention to the percentile results, the reading results tell a similar story to math. For example, we see students at the 90th percentile, the highest performing students, are the only group to show improvement since the first assessment. And you see declines at the 10th, 25th, and 50th percentile compared to 1992. Here you can see the percentiles with score changes since the last assessment, the 10th and the 25th. And it's important to note that these average scores at the 10th and 25th percentile are the lowest ever on NAEP reading at grade 12. Continuing our percentile theme, we look at scores by race, ethnicity, and gender. First, you'll see the top row has to change to the average score in the first column, followed by change in the 5 percentiles from 1992 for all students. In the first column, we observe an average score decline of 7 points since the first assessment year. And as you look across the rows, you notice double-digit drops at both the 10th and 25th percentile and a positive change at the 90th percentile. As you bring your results by race ethnicity, you see Asian Pacific Islander students' performance has improved since 1992, while Black and white student performance has decreased over that same time period. White, Black, and Hispanic student performance declined at the 10th and 25th percentiles. In contrast, any change you see at the 75th and 90th percentiles are increases. Those include increases made by both white and Asian Pacific Islander students at the 75th and 90th percentile. When examining the impact that these changes have had on gaps, we observed from 1992 to 2019, the performance gap between white and Black students widened from a 24-point gap to a 32-point gap. This widening was a result of Black students' average scores declining faster than those of white students, 10-point decline for Black students versus a 2-point decline for white students. Finally, we look at results by gender. We see overall scores decline for both male and female students, and we see decreases in performance for both groups at the 10th, 25th, and 50th percentiles. Only those performing at the 90th percentiles has increased their score. When looking at the reading subscale results I mentioned earlier, you'll notice that the literary text subscale showed an overall score decline of 3 points compared to 2015, as well as declines at the 10th, 25th, and 50th percentile. While the informational text subscale showed no overall decline, scores for students at the 10th percentile decreased. NAEP achievement level results show that 37% of students on the far right reached the NAEP proficient or above threshold, significantly lower than 1992. In reading, students reaching proficient should be able to locate and integrate information using sophisticated analysis of the meaning and form of the text, as well as provide specific text support for inferences, interpretive statements, and comparisons within and across text. We see a higher percent of students not reaching basic, 30%, and there is a lower percentage of students at basic compared to both 2015 and 1992. The increase in students at advanced is consistent with the percentile results, the 90th percentile being the only one to increase, with the advanced increasing from 4% in 1992 to 6% in 2019. As part of the NAEP assessment, we asked sample students as well as their teachers and school administrators to complete questions about their educational experience. It's these questions that allow educators, researchers, and policymakers to really understand the educational environment of the nation's students. We asked 12th graders, what mathematics courses have you taken since 8th grade? Using responses to this question, we created two groups of courses. More advanced courses in dark blue include Algebra 2, Trigonometry, Pre-Calculus, and Calculus, and less advanced courses in light blue include Geometry, Algebra 1, and lower courses. Starting at the left, see how this breaks down for all students. 90% reported taking more advanced courses, while 10% reported taking lower level courses in 2019. These percentages are different from 2005, indicating that students are taking more advanced mathematics courses. A closer look reveals that it's the lower performers driving these increases. The middle set of bars show the same data, but for those students below NAEP Basic, and the bars on the far right show these data for those at or above NAEP Proficient. Notice the increase in students below Basic who reported taking more advanced courses, 62% in 2005 versus 81% in 2019. This is a curious finding, given that the achievement level results we discussed show the percent below basic has not changed since 2005. You would think that more advanced courses would correlate with students moving out of the below basic category. However, our results don't show that relationship. The last survey question I'll highlight looks at the percentage of students who reported taking AP English Lit and composition by achievement level. On this slide, dark blue bars indicate students who reported previously or currently taking AP English Literature and Composition, while light blue bars representing those who had not taken such a course. Starting at the left, results show a slight decline in students reporting taking AP English Literature and Composition. 18% of students took this course, which is unchanged from 2015, but is smaller than the 21% who took this course in 2013. Again, the middle bars represent those students below NAEP Basic and show that 10% are taking this course in 2019, higher than 2015, but no different from 2013. The far right set of bars show 28% of students at or above NAEP Proficient report taking this course, down from both 2015 and 2013. And as previously noted, we have a drop in the literary subcell score, as well as the decline in the percentage of students taking AP English Lit and Composition. Before we open it up for questions, let me just quickly summarize the results. Beginning with math, we see that the results are flat from 2015 to 2005. Underneath this trend were several student groups from 2005 which showed improvements. In 2019, 24% of students reached proficient, demonstrating mastery of challenging subject matter, while 40% were not able to meet NAEP Basic, which is partial mastery of prerequisite knowledge and skill. For reading, results are lower compared to both 2015 and 1992. 37% were at or above proficient, with 30% below basic. There is a 10% increase in below basic in 1992 to 30%. That 30% is the highest reported percent of students performing below basic in the history of grade 12 NAEP reading. The data we just shared represents the last in a series of data releases for the NAEP Math and Reading 2019 data collections. Given that, we thought it would be helpful to examine the results across all 3 grades. I will make these comparisons back to 2015 to keep them consistent with the grade 12 results. Beginning with mathematics, you see that the average scores are flat in the top row across all 3 grades compared to 2015. You can also see score declines across all grades for lower performers, either the 10th or 25th percentile, compared to 2015, and that's indicated by the downward pointed arrows in the light blue circles. Scores for higher performers, those at the 75th or 90th percentile, are up for grades 4 and 8 with no changes for grade 12. This movement across the distribution with the lower performers declining and the higher performers improving or not changing results in a no change of the average score, but as you see, there is movement across the different performance levels. Finally, the percentage below basic have increased for both grades 8 and 12. Now for reading, you see the average scores compared to 2015 have declined for all 3 grades. You also see that scores for lower performing students have decreased across all 3 grades, with the 50th percentile also declining at grades 4 and 8. As you may have guessed, we have more students in below basic in all 3 grades. And here you see all those findings together. What stands out is that the decline in the results for lower performing students across all 3 grades in both subjects, and stagnation for the results for higher performing students. Distributions look as if they're pulling against each other. I'm happy to see Peggy's face, but I will say in closing, I'd like to thank all the schools and students who participated in the assessment. Without you all, NAEP wouldn't be possible. And now I'd like to turn it now back over to Laura to handle the questions. Laura?
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Woodworth, Dr. Carr, Dr. Wood, thank you for pinch hitting and thank you for stepping in. But thank you all for the excellent presentation of data. I see that there is a question about, is this data also available broken out by rural, urban, and by section of the country? And I'll give this one over, I think, to Dr. Carr. She can explain.
Yes, we do have those results. I don't have them in front of me, but I invite people to go to our NAEP Data Explorer and view those results by region of the country and type of school, urban, rural, and suburban, and so forth.
Yes, there's a lot of rich data available on the website for people to dig into. Another question is, was performance on paper versus computer examined? And if so, did you find differences after controlling for any differences in the groups?
Yes, we did have a random sample of students take the paper and pencil as well as the digital base. We combined them, though, in reporting these results with linking procedures with common items and common population linking procedures. We did not find any differences that would be meaningful, and they are now on the same scale.
Thank you. And there's I see a question that takes us back to 1992, throwback question. Let me see where I can find that. Wasn't there an anomaly in the 1992 reading assessment that might impact trend?
Yeah, we did have an investigation into those results. There was this drop that we saw and we were concerned about, but our investigation revealed nothing that we could say conclusively, and so these results that you're seeing are official.
Right below that is an intriguing one. Can you break down the data by Title I schools, but instead you do SES by free and reduced price eligibility, right?
Specifically for Title I schools. These data are not bifurcated in that way. We, of course, have data for free and reduced price lunch. These data are more reliable for 4th and 8th grade. For 12th grade, not so reliable. In fact, we do not report a free and reduced price lunch in the nation's report card, although there are data in the NAEP Data Explorer. but they clearly have some validity issues that would say to us we shouldn't rely on them as the best surrogate for SES, and so we use parents' report of educational level for 12th grade. Yeah.
And that, I like this one, as I think we're going to need to wrap up the Q&A. Thank you to everyone who's sending in so many good questions. What are the big takeaways for practitioners, do you think, from these data? What do you think, like kind of a big picture kind of look?
You know, there's some real interesting questions that we asked of students about their confidence in being able to respond to the questions. And students were very clear that they didn't know or feel very confident in some very basic fundamental skills when it comes to reading, being able to recognize the author's purpose, being able to identify specific themes, or being able to conduct some basic fundamental math operations. So I think that those who want to understand what might be actionable should go to those questions in the student background questionnaire and see what these students are telling us they are lacking confidence in and able to, what they're not able to do, quite honestly.
I think that thank you, and several of the other questions are about low income, special learning. I think what you said there is going through the data, which there is so much of it there and all available, very easy to access. So people who have questions that we cannot answer right now should definitely head to the website, nationsreportcard.gov, that you see there on your screen, and check out some of these unanswered questions. Answer your own questions, and thank you for your answers, Dr. Carr, and thank you for the questions, everyone.
So I want to thank Dr. Carr for the wonderful presentation and also acknowledge Dr. Wilburn for stepping in and assisting us. This now concludes the statistical press release for the 2019 grade 12 NAEP results. Indeed.
Now we are going to shift a little bit, and let's talk about what we can do to improve high school students' achievement and outcomes. We're going to hear from 3 members of the National Assessment Governing Board responding to questions recorded in advance from national experts. The board members are Alberto Carvalho, Superintendent of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Paul Gasparini, the principal of Jamesville DeWitt High School in DeWitt, New York, and Reginald McGregor, the Manager of Engineering, Employee Development, and STEM Outreach for Rolls-Royce Corporation. We're very grateful to you for being with us and to the national experts who shared their thought-provoking questions about NAEP results and high school seniors. Our first question is from Alicia Smith-Arriaga, the Executive Director of Education Trust West, an organization based in California that advocates for low-income students.
This year's NAEP results are from before COVID even hit our shores. But long before COVID was in the United States, we had a crisis of educational equity where our systems were not serving Black students, Latinx students, or English learners. This pandemic creates an opportunity for us to recreate a system that centers equity. What innovative practices are you seeing, even in distance learning, that are closing gaps for students and centering equity across the country?
Thank you very much for that important question, Alicia. She asks, what innovative practices are you seeing, even in distance learning, that are closing gaps for students? Alberto, I think there are practices that you and your team are implementing in Miami-Dade.
Good afternoon. It's great to participate in this important discussion, this national discussion. I want to thank Chairman Barber and the Commissioner and the Associate Commissioner for the important information that was just released. Alicia's question is a poignant one and an important one. There were kids in crisis prior to the pandemic that has devastated educational opportunity across our country. And the data that was just released reveals how much in crisis they were. Certainly there's nothing to celebrate regarding math performance nationally, but you can see that higher performing students fared better both in reading and mathematics. The converse is also true. The more fragile children or students fared worse. So the easiest response to the question is we've always been a data-driven school system. and data-driven decisions and the data-driven decision-making, which incorporates differentiated resource allocations, has always happened in Miami-Dade County Public Schools and must continue to happen, and it continues to happen, whether students are enrolled in a schoolhouse or learning online. What this means is that we have powerful dashboards, powerful data systems that reveal the educational gaps that students face and allow us to differentiate funding on the basis of performance of these subgroups. We also disaggregate all data regarding on the basis of ethnic, racial makeup, socioeconomic level, disability or not, as well as English language proficiency. That gives us an idea of how to best serve students in a differentiated way. All of our students currently, we have about 51% who are participating online and about 49% currently in the schoolhouse. All of our students participate both in synchronous learning as well as asynchronous. Regarding, and I think this is a best practice that it's easy to replicate. In terms of synchronous learning activities and blended virtual learning sessions where the class meets at the same time. This builds sort of a sense of inclusion within classes in the school community. Through, for example, breakout rooms and small group, students take a deeper dive into the content. Through asynchronous learning activities, students can engage in classwork to develop content knowledge and apply it in terms of learning through project-based activities that further refine inquiry skills. We also are known as a system of choice, empowering families and students with the ability to choose. So we have provided accessibility and choice for academic programs to create a system centered on equity by allowing, number one, students to engage with curriculum and content through My School Online or the schoolhouse brick and mortar models. Teachers provide instruction and present content in a variety of ways to increase learner participation. All of this is measured, engaged, real time. Students are also engaged with guest speakers and professionals for lectures, for master classes and enrichment instruction through Microsoft Teams and Zoom. And lastly, as far as faculty members are concerned, they have found that virtual breakout rooms result in truly randomized groups enhancing performance. As far as students are concerned, what's worked well for us is really student self-reflection with a focus on equity as a prevalent strategy across Miami-Dade. Asynchronous elements are utilized, such as learning journals, writing and critical thinking to keep track of how students' thinking evolves throughout each week. And students also have access to tools that facilitate collaboration, like shared documents, message boards, and blogs. But as I close, we have not departed from our theory of action, which is we measure everything, we rely on professional development, we have powerful dashboards that are data-driven that inform us down to the level of a student, a classroom, a school, a feeder pattern, district-wide, and then disaggregate all data, whether students are learning in a brick and mortar model or online. To us, we have the levels of differentiated support that meet children where they are and certainly ensure this evolution towards maximum performance for each one of them.
So whether measuring performance in real time in classrooms with kids or measuring performance in NAEP, sometimes it can be sobering, but it's necessary. Paul, do you have your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura, and thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here with Alberto, with Reginald, my colleagues on the board, and I also want to thank Governor Barber and Drs. Carr and Woodworth as well. I'll just speak from Alberto was speaking from the systems level. Just from the building level, there's no substitute for people to answer that question, and we've seen some of the latest research, which, no surprise, strongly suggest a correlation between tutoring and achievement. So we need to take that to heart. And some of the things we do both inside the school and with our students who are remote, when we make decisions about sectioning students, we reserve our smaller sections for our students who need the most assistance. And that provides more attention from teachers or any support staff that are in the classroom. We also found that using tutoring sessions on remote days we do use our teaching assistants, our aides, to do not only focused online tutoring, but we also do after-school one-on-one tutoring, even remotely. So I think a combination of those practices with a focus on people, that people help students, keeping those sections small, seem to, for us in particular, to provide some level of success for our most at-risk students.
It all sounds like a lot of hard work, but a lot of thoughtful work. All right, thank you. Our next question is from Crystal Bridgman, the Senior Director of Workforce Development Programs for the Siemens Foundation. The foundation invests in workforce development to promote opportunities in STEM technical careers and to help young adults prepare for them.
Careers in STEM offer exciting, well-paid opportunities that shape the future of how we work, live, and interact with one another. But people of color and women of all backgrounds continue to be underrepresented in STEM careers, particularly in leadership roles. What steps can public and private sector leaders, including the governing board, take to ensure equitable opportunity and representation across the STEM workforce? And how can work-based learning, including youth apprenticeships, be part of the solution?
Great question from Crystal. What can leaders, including the governing board, do to ensure equitable opportunities and representation across STEM fields, and how can work-based learning, including youth apprenticeships, be part of the solution? Reginald, what are your thoughts on this question?
Everyone who's attended, all those who have contributed to this, and to my colleagues as well for those wonderful points as we talk about our education system and progress of our students. So we'll pivot a little bit. First, let's understand the role of the governing board. So we have a congressional mandated responsibility to determine the content and format of our assessments. So we have to ensure that the assessments are equitable and non-biased for all learners. That's first and foremost, because we want to ensure that we have a assessment system that is not going to shrink our work pool. Now, let's think about the education system from an industry standpoint. Our education system is a producer of a product. And we know when we start talking about STEM, we know in this STEM area, there are different levels of STEM careers. We are grateful for all the wonderful scientists and researchers that are working on the vaccine today for COVID-19. We're also grateful and applaud those technicians, machine operators, and engineers who have changed from making auto parts to ventilators. And then we're also grateful for those high school students who are being hired by small tech firms for coding and creating apps that can actually take your temperature on your cell phone hourly. All those are three different levels of STEM fields. Now, our assessment, we want to ensure that the assessment captures the knowledge and skills of all those levels of STEM. And then when we deep dive into this whole STEM field, we realize there's a lack of representation first on people of color and gender. It's not a problem that started today. As private and public leaders, we have to be intentional about having the right people at the right table talking about this right topic. We have to be intentional about demanding our K-12 system as a producer of having a product that includes a diverse workforce for us to succeed. The last thing is, we also know as we talk about the skills and knowledge of our students, it's more than just a data point of taking a test. We realize that. But we want to encourage our administrators and our leaders to provide feedback to help us if we need to tweak the system to ensure that we have a future workforce to do these STEM careers. Now, when we talk about apprenticeships and work-based learning, there's a negative stereotype with those. That those are the students who might not do well in the classroom. So first and foremost, we got to get rid of that stereotype. Those opportunities actually provide students and can help students perform better in classrooms when they are working with a mentor or working with a technician or working alongside a professional. It can actually help them in the classroom. Those students are also, those work-based learning opportunities are created by mostly industry. So we also might make sure that we have opportunities and we have not created barriers or put things in place to keep students of all races, all genders, all backgrounds participating in the important work-based learning and apprenticeship programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll take a question from Chauncey Lennon, the Vice President for Learning and Work at Lumina Foundation. Lumina is committed to making opportunities for learning beyond high school available to all in a system that meets the nation's need for talent through a broad range of credentials.
It hardly needs saying that reading and math are essential to post-secondary success. We need to recognize, though, that more than half of all students are pursuing short-term pathways when they leave high school: certificates, certification, and 2-year career-focused degrees. In the wake of COVID, we believe there'll be even more students who pursue these flexible, affordable, and job-focused options. What does the report card tell us about how we are doing in ensuring that these students are getting the general skills they'll need to be successful?
So this is a great question. How do we know and how are we ensuring that students have skills in reading and mathematics, as well as general skills necessary to be successful? I'm going to throw this one to you, Alberto, first.
So it's a terrific question, and unfortunately, it represents today, as we know, it's a harsh reality. But we certainly know more about how they are doing in reading and mathematics than we do as far as general skills are concerned. And as we just saw presented, 12th grade assessment nationally reveals stagnation in terms of math and a decrease in performance as far as reading is concerned. So this should be a wake-up call to the nation as a whole, because it reflects, quite frankly, a deepening gap, and not necessarily for all students, but certainly for those who as I said earlier, were in crisis to begin with before COVID. And I think that the gap that we are experiencing as a result of a disruptive fourth quarter of last year, compounded by the summer regression, compounded by a level of disengaged students in the first quarter of this year. You put all those elements together, and we should be bracing ourselves, quite frankly, for a historic academic regression, the likes of which we've never seen. And what's depressing about the data that we saw is that this data precedes all of those factors associated with a disrupted school environment that I just described. And so, we know that reading is essential to the success of students in post-secondary endeavors, and increasing the number of students who enter post-secondary opportunities with the intent of pursuing a 4-year degree, a certificate, an AA degree, a technical program, can actually begin at the high school level. Many will argue, and I will, can begin actually at the middle school level. In Miami-Dade, we actually promote an array of courses to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all students based on vocation, interest, but also exposure through equitable access to high-quality educational programs. Students who are struggling with reading are often enrolled in intensive reading courses and before and after school programming, in longer school years in Saturday academies that use research-based curriculum to provide intervention to ensure that before they reach whatever that post-secondary level entry point is, they are college ready, post-high school ready, 2-year course ready, and avoid taking remedial courses in these institutions that can often be very costly and delay, obviously, their entrance point into the workforce. For students who are performing at grade level or above in reading, we also offer an extensive selection of courses that earn students college credit, such as advanced placement with minimum required offerings for every single high school, Cambridge Advanced International Certificate of Education, IB programs, and dual enrollment via partnerships with colleges and universities. In fact, over the past 10 years, we increased dramatically the participation in these advanced academic programs for all students, but particularly Black and Brown students, while also increasing the performance, which is unnatural. Usually, when you grow your denominator, your numerator performance may suffer, but that was not the case in Miami-Dade. So promotion and increased enrollment in these programs has helped motivate students to pursue 4-year degrees, but also have greater confidence in 2-year programs, since their tuition is covered if they attend a college in the state of Florida via scholarship incentives that the floor of the legislature actually provides for. Just this school year, for example, we had 2 high schools in our district that were selected and participated in a study titled Dual Enrollment for Low-Income and Minority High School Students through the Teachers College at Columbia University, with support from the Aspen Institute. These schools were selected because they had relatively high numbers of low-income and minority high school students participating in dual enrollment courses, taking college-level courses while in high school, taught by college professors. The emphasis of the study was to really understand and provide maybe a model for the nation on how to increase enrollment with this demographic. And I think the answer for us is really simply creating a culture where students understood these opportunities and were pushed by key faculty members who were trained for this to pursue post-secondary opportunities while still being a high school student. Lastly, as it relates to ensuring that students acquire the general skills needed in the area of mathematics, Florida already provides a reasonably strong and rigorous required element for mathematics for graduation for all students. But in addition to that, we provide opportunities for students to enroll in financial algebra course in the 11th grade, which addresses topics of banking, consumer credit, large purchases, some of the elements that Reginald was mentioning, employment basics, stock market, entrepreneurship, and budgeting. Students may also elect to enroll in industry certification courses in a variety of areas, from cybersecurity technology, health, automotive services, civil engineering, or take computer science courses as a substitute for limited math credits. So this diverse and varied course offering that we present to our students provides for preparedness for rapid certification, 2-year programs, or 4-year programs, ultimately with the goal of providing students not only reading, mathematics, but also general skills needed to be successful in life from an economic perspective, considering the rapid pace and diversification of our local, national, and international economy.
Thank you. There seems to be a lot of options and opportunities. I will say also, I'm going to put in a plug because I heard you mention about students being prepared without needing remedial coursework, which would then postpone their college, right? Or delay, add up the hours they need. And the governing board does have that academic preparedness indicator from the NAEP results that indicates whether students are prepared for college level coursework without remediation. And that's, I think, 37% was that. So we've got a third of the kids. But I saw Reginald nodding his head, so I'm going to turn it over to Reginald. Go ahead.
So a real discussion around the purpose of our NAEP scores. So we're looking at the progress of students, how they're learning, how they're achieving. Let me put on my industry hat here for a minute. So in industry, as we're making a product, we know we cannot wait to the very end of the process to take measures of quality checks, because we only know 2 things. We got a good product or we got scrap, right? As we have looked at these scores today, and actually looked at the scores in different demographics, we might even want to consider taking a look at the progress of our students before the 12th grade, especially as we continue to see the data trending in some of these underrepresented groups. And I know it's a difficult task. I know right now we take a measurement at our 4th grade and 8th grade. But when you start talking about the skills needed and how do we ensure those skills are needed, once students get into the secondary level, especially at the high school level, before we allow our 12th grade scores to dictate what they're going to do in the field, and you don't get that feedback instantly, let's start taking a look at that 10th grade level, especially at those areas that we see students not perform where they should be, a student not being as proficient. And as we see those inefficiencies, then let's start making tweaks by the time they come out in the 12th grade that we know that they will have a skill set in order to be able to do jobs and careers that's in the future.
Excellent food for thought. Thank you. Good call. And last, but certainly not least, is a question from Michael Petrilli, president of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute. The Institute promotes educational excellence for every child by focusing on high expectations, high quality choices, and personalized pathways.
The results that we're looking at today, of course, are not just about what happened in the 12th grade, but what happened over the course of these students' entire academic careers. And back when they were little kids and they were in elementary school just learning to read, the nation went through the Great Recession, and then the aftermath, where there was significant decrease in spending for the first time in our history. Do you think that those factors might explain some of the results that we're seeing today?
Interesting question. Given that grade 12 scores are years in the making, does the Great Recession and the significant decrease in education spending and its aftermath explain some of the results that we're seeing today? Paul, as a secondary school principal, what do you think?
I do have some thoughts about that. It's a very provocative question. Before I do that, I want to thank Laura, too. I didn't thank her in my beginning as well for managing all of this. And I also want to, Alberto spoke about dual enrollment, which I think is a very important point. When we looked at the slide, there was a suggestion that students may be moving away from AP exams or AP courses, in particular the AP Lit and Comp course, because of the preparedness of teachers. I would disagree with that assertion strongly. I do think it's because of an explosion, and unfortunately, typically in areas with maybe some more means, an explosion of dual enrollment opportunities. And there was some movement away from AP exams too, Scarsdale being a famous example, among others. So I think that is more nuanced, and Alberto's point about dual enrollment is very significant. And I also want to say that in the answer to Reggie's last question, in particular, I strongly agree with Reginald's point about talking about moving the assessment to 10th grade. I think it's something, he is absolutely right. It's not easy to do, but it's certainly a point worth discussing. But to Michael Petrilli's point, I do think the Great Recession, when I answered first, the Great Recession, I talked about, in my first answer, I talked about the importance of people. And when you don't have money, the first resource that goes away is people. And so class size, instructional support in the form of teacher assistants and aides were extraordinarily important in this enterprise. I think that suffered and had some impact. But Mr. Petrilli referenced K through 12. And I think one thing that isn't discussed enough, and this is state by state, I understand that. I'm in a state with a big TUTA district in New York State. I think the inconsistency in curriculum in each state is problematic for our students. I've been a high school principal for 24 years and have seen changes in math, 5 changes in math curriculum in our state and 3 changes in English curriculum in our state during that time. And of course, there's changes in the related assessments as well. That means that there hasn't been, in almost 3 decades, one K through 12 cohort that's gone through with a consistently articulated math and English curriculum. Oftentimes, policymakers come in, school chiefs, et cetera, and one of their signatures is to do something with the curriculum. And I completely understand that impulse. But I would suggest that patience and articulation of curriculum over time for K through 12 would help our students when it came to these scores.
Thanks very much, Paul. We don't have much time left, but last point to Alberto. Want to respond to that?
Certainly. Number one, let me thank you also and the entire team for putting together this conversation. Look, I think certainly there could be a connection between funding appropriation levels and the lagging performance of 12th graders in reading and mathematics. Those elements are usually hard to prove scientifically. What I'm more concerned at this point is things to come, considering the data that we just saw released today, which is a stagnation in mathematics and a decline in reading performance, whether compared to not just the last assessment, but 2 assessments, back. And when you consider that side by side with the appropriations out of the federal level to protect public education, K-12 education nationally, you certainly could be considering a disastrous condition moving forward. You look at Florida, you look at other states, and there's just no way of overcoming some of the potential losses if there isn't a significant reinvestment of federal funding to stabilize K-12 systems. Back in 2008, 2009, we had seen about 10 times the investment in K-12 that we have seen now, dealing with what first began as a health crisis, and then the nation was thrust into a social, racial crisis, and now, trust me, we're going to usher in an economic crisis, the likes of which we probably have not seen. And the parallel investment from the federal government has not kept pace with the growing crisis, which is so imminent in front of all of us. So I'm realistically concerned about the possibility that funding, a lag in funding prior to the administration of these assessments may have resulted in those scores. But I'm equally concerned about the near future and long-term future if something is not done now.
Well, that's a note to end on, so I'm going to bring it back. Right. So thank you very, very much. These are important points, and it's somber news, it's sobering news, but it's important news, and very helpful insights to hear. So thank you all very much. Thank you to our board members for participating today. This is an excellent panel, very thought-provoking. And thank you to our questioners as well, who have given us much to think about and talk about today. Thank you to our audience for joining us. We hope to see you at another governing board event soon. Thank you all very much.